All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome you all and call to order the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, September the 12th. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly, Your Honor. Council members Baker. Here. Galloway.
Here.
Lennon.
Here.
Piana. Here. And Mayor Coulter.
Great. Yes, we are all here. We have a quorum. Our next order of business would be the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
I would move that we...
Your Honor,
yes.
I'd like to call or pull from the agenda item 6B.
Item 6B, we will move from the consent agenda to the regular agenda.
Or we're just eliminating it altogether?
No, just pulling it from the consent.
Well, we're not there yet. We're not at consent agenda. That's right. That would that would be an appropriate motion when we get to the consent agenda. Okay. If not, a motion to approve the agenda would be in order.
So moved. Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Piana. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Council members Baker. Yes. Galloway.
Yes.
Lennon.
Yes.
Piana. Yes. And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is approved. We have a few presentations this evening. Our first presentation is by the Ferndale Public Schools. Good evening.
My name is Jessica Stilger, Communications Specialist for Ferndale Public Schools. We had a good start to the school year despite our one-day delay. We wanted to thank the community for understanding the delay and hoping that everyone is back to being adjusted to the start of the school, has power, their branches are cleared, and all of those things. I know it was a tough decision to delay, but I think it was all for the better, and we really want to thank the community for understanding. One of our support groups, the Eagles Pledge, had their first event this past weekend. The College Success Tailgate was an opportunity for Ferndale High School juniors and seniors to enter their names into a game for college scholarships. The Eagles Pledge is a group of community members, parents, and school personnel whose long-term goal includes giving every Ferndale High School graduate a scholarship for a post-secondary education. In the short term, they are giving out a minimum of 2 scholarships every year. Last year, they gave one to a junior and one to a senior, and throughout this year, I'll be keeping everyone up to date about the fundraisers that are coming up. This is going to be the first big kickoff year for them with fundraisers. The beginning of the school year is full of all kinds of events, and the school district puts together a collaborative calendar each year with district-wide events, school events, sporting events, community events, and they have been distributed to all district families, but we have them available in all of our elementary school buildings in case anyone is interested in picking up a copy. We will also be distributing them around at the Kulik Center and the library as well. We also have all of our calendar information in an up-to-date Google Calendar available on our website to download into all your personal calendars. Each week, the Ferndale School shares its news and upcoming information in weekly e-newsletters. They have a new format. They look like this now instead of this. And we post them on our website and on our Facebook page every week, but if anyone would like to receive them in their email address, they can email us at fpsfanout@ferndaleschools.org, subject sign me up.
Great. Jessica, thank you. Any questions of Jessica from council? Wonderful. Thank you so much. Our next presentation this evening, we entitled Economic Vitality Incentive Program, and I'm going to let our city manager introduce that item.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. I wanted to take this opportunity to talk a little bit to Council about the EVIP program, otherwise known as Economic Vitality Incentive Program. We formally know that as state shared revenue. And I believe that since a lot of these changes have occurred with the transition in city managers, it's probably time for a formal update to City Council and to our residents about exactly some of the changes that are happening with state shared revenue. So feel free at any time to Council to ask me any questions during this brief presentation. For fiscal year 2012, the state of Michigan essentially eliminated statutory revenue sharing. What they did instead was wanted to make it a little more competitive rather than just an automatic give to communities. And when they did, they restructured it and call it the new program, which is Economic Vitality Incentive Program. And this was passed by legislature in Public Act 63 of 2011. That was part of as Snyder came into office. There are actually two parts to this program. As stated before, let me back up for just a second. There's two forms of shared revenue. There's constitutional and statutory, and this is only the statutory part of revenue sharing that we're discussing. And it's two parts to it. There's an incentive program and a grant program. The incentive program includes $202 million that are available for distribution. When they did that, they actually removed some cities and municipalities from being eligible for state shared revenue depending on the size and population that they had within for their population. Out of that 270 eligible cities, that does include Ferndale. The city has a maximum potential of funding for $855,000, which is a loss of about $400,000 for us, give or take a few dollars. Again, when they started this program, they did reduce the revenue sharing for most municipalities in that regards to, again, make it more of a specific requirements that I'll be talking about in just a second. In the incentive program, there is 3 areas or components, if you will, for in order to be eligible for funds. And they have there's 3 different components with 3 different deadlines. The first is the October 1st deadline, which is considered accountability and transparency. And the intent here is to ensure that municipalities give access to communities and their residents exactly where their finances stand, as well as what they're calling a dashboard, where we fit in metrics. This is more of a lot of communities are already doing this, but it's more of a way to ensure that everybody is indeed sharing with their residents where we are and how fiscally sound that we are. There are multiple ways that you can do that. Some people will create, they have a website, part of their website dedicated to that. They might just have, budget books, things of that nature, or just what's called the F-65 Treasury report that's put on the state that's required when we turn in our audits and our information for state shared revenue. There's a form that goes on the state treasury that you can look on, and it shows exactly where a city might be as it relates to funding and expenditures within their budget. We, when I came on board, had started the process of using a tool called Munitrix, which I do have somebody here. We're going to go through that very briefly as a starting point for starting that Citizens Guide and Dashboard. I know it's a work in progress, but it takes a lot of the information from that form that's put on the Treasury Department and tries to put it in a more comprehensive manner. I don't know for any resident or even governor or any council member who's looked at that form, it can get very confusing. And really it's a snapshot in time. So most of today's focus that I'm going to have in this presentation will be on where we are for the October 1st deadline and presenting that to council. But in the meantime, I wanted to do an overview of the program in its entirety. The second deadline is January 1st, and that's the consolidation of services. We must produce a plan with 1 or more proposals that increase cooperation. And it was hard to believe, but there are some communities that are not consolidating, have never consolidated anything before. And then there are many of our communities that have participated in consolidation for a very long time. I mean, obviously our Pleasant Ridge for the last 80 years with fire is a perfect example of working with your neighboring jurisdictions. And so what we get to do is take a look at and take stock over the last, well, I guess for us, 80 years of what we have done in past collaborations and what we have done recently, as well as what we're looking at for in the future. And that will be due on January 1st, 2012. And as each deadline hits and as we turn in the required information, we will get 1/3 of the payment. I wanted to clarify that as well. The third part of the incentive program is that we have to implement required changes that have been handed down by the state. This relates to health care and pension. There's many things that are kind of going through with that right now, some changes in pension benefits as well as requirements of what's called a hard cap for health care, meaning that the city could not pay a certain amount above as determined by the state on health care for employees. there are options for opt-out and things of that nature, and as we get closer to that and we start to take a look at where we are fiscally, I'll be bringing to council some recommendations on how we want to handle employee compensation. But I think it's important to note that as of right now, we are still in contract negotiations with the fire department, but all of the other employees are actually below the hard cap. So we've done a very good job in being fiscally responsible with that. But that will be a requirement on May 1st to send out a form to the state that indicates that we will indeed comply with the state mandate of addressing the health care and pension costs. The second component to the change in statutory revenue sharing is the grant program, which is where the lowering of our state share revenue comes from. They took $5 million that was available or normally went to other communities for state share revenue and put it into a fund that is designed to assist in consolidation. It's still a little unclear to me what that money can be used for, but my understanding is that if, like for instance, and taking into consideration right now that we are working with Hazel Park to look at a fire consolidation study, if we were indeed to decide to move forward with that, we could apply for a grant to help offset some of those costs, maybe legal fees or equipment in some instances. So that money would be there for a grant application for that money, and it's designed, again, for those who are consolidating. Before I go and talk a little any further about Munitrix, I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can regarding this new way of receiving state share revenue for the statutory portion. And what I don't know, I will get for you next time.
Other questions of council? Yes.
I only have one. And that is, I see the deadlines, and I know that the payments are divided into thirds based on these deadlines. Are those deadlines hard and fast regardless of when we turn in our information? If we turn in our information early, do we get checks earlier?
I think, probably not, but I could double check. But yeah, we want to get ours in. We hope to finish our forms by the end of the week, actually, just in case there's error or they want us to double check something. As well. So I think that I would imagine that checks will go out on those deadlines for those that are turning in their information appropriately.
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
I think it's the Governor Snyder's office produced a template for the EVIP, and I know cities don't have to follow it, but I was wondering how closely we are, and how closely are we following it, and how different are we?
From what I understand, Munitrix is very close to what the template is. In fact, I think it's even above and beyond, if I'm not mistaken. He's nodding. So from what I understand, that we're well above and beyond what they're requiring. What we're going to do is we have to take, the program I'm going to show you is meant to be interactive, and so we've actually, with Munitrix help, has taken snapshots of the required pages to send to the state, because it's interesting that they won't let you link to your website. You actually have to have a hard PDF file sent to the state in order for them to be able to look at it. And we will be putting it in, we will making those same copies available to the library and to City Hall for people who do not have access to a computer or don't want to use that to get that information. But from what I understand, we're well above and beyond that, and there's even more that we can add to these templates as well if we want to.
Okay. And then the other question I have is that their evaluation for revenue dollars goes beyond basic service collaboration or consolidation. They said collaboration, which can mean lots of different things that aren't dealing with basic services such as police and fire. So I'm very interested in what applies, because Ferndale does have a record of doing a lot of cross-border collaboration outside of police and fire, looking at those opportunities. So I'm sure we can provide you with some ideas of what to include in there to make it more attractive to get that funding.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to be participating in a webinar that's dedicated just in particular to that section of the requirements, and as soon as I get that information, I would imagine we'll be spending some time at a council meeting, make sure I'll give you the list of stuff that I've noted and staff has noted over the course of the years, but allow council to offer input as well, because there are lots of things that we may not have recalled or remember. Any further questions before I go into the Munitrix system? Okay. So bear with me on this one. I do have somebody from Munitrix here, so when I get stuck or lost, he'll be able to help us out. And I might actually have him go over a few things as well, just to ensure that we have an understanding of what the system can do. So a resident can log on. I guess I should have started at the beginning. On the front page of our, I'll do this really quick. So you can see, I'm a little fast, I apologize. If you see on the front page of our website, there is a logo called Munitrix, and that is where a resident could go on and click and see our financial information. When they go in, they don't have to sign in. It's an automatic, I guess they call it a gas login. So you would just accept, you know how they always have the terms of use, and then you are in the system. So what this does is it tries to give a snapshot of history of the city finances, as well as a small snapshot of going forward a couple of years as well. This information is, again, directly taken from the State Treasurer's Department, where we are required to file all of our budget information. So this is going to not take the place of a budget book or anything of that nature. Again, it's more of an interactive tool and a snapshot of different parts of the city's funding or expenditures and revenues, so that residents have a better understanding of where their dollars are going. There are multiple reports that you can take a look at. For instance, you can see where the money comes from, so it'll show you where the revenue is, and it explains, and it has everything very color coded, so people can take a look and see where, you know, how much we've had in state shared revenue, property taxes, parks and recreation income, things of that nature. I'm not going to go over every single thing, but just significant parts that that residents can then at least get used to and understand what they're seeing. Same thing with how money is spent. So you can see here with the bar graph, we have police, fire, public works, administration, district court, parks and rec, things of that nature. One of the things that it was required for, one of the reasons I think the impetus behind some of this was making sure that the cities showed exactly what kind of unfunded liabilities that they possess. For us, that would be some pension and OPEB costs. I was hoping Jane Marie could be here tonight, but she was unable to, so there's actually specific questions about dollar amounts or whatnot. I told her I would ask for her to come back at a different time. But you can see here pension fund status, and it shows where that is. It has the red line shows present value of obligations, and then the assets are in green. Let's see here. Some other, I'm going to move over to the dashboard, which is kind of an interesting concept that they've taken. This is kind of the city's report card, if you will, and that's the one thing with, you know, Munitrix that we're kind of working through, and I think a lot of communities are, is that some of the form you turn into the F-65 or whatnot is a snapshot at a certain point. It's not necessarily reflective of where we are at the end of a fiscal year or whatnot. But some of this information on the dashboard is actually taken from other sources. We'll start with the finance part of it. Again, that's taken from the F-65 form, and it's supposed to, again, be much clearer, so you can see the downward arrow shows that we didn't move forward in progress. We actually went backwards. And so one of the things that staff is trying to look for is that still an accurate representation of, are those numbers where we really, is that what the true numbers are? So you can see that for like fund balance as percent of annual general fund expenditure shows a decrease of down from 31% to 26% for the fiscal year. And again, that was a snapshot at time. But it goes down further, which starts to get interesting, is they take information from public safety reports from the Michigan State Police and talks about crime, and you can see that our crime has decreased from 2009 to 2010, so you can see the upward in progress. And then traffic crashes and injury, they also pull from Michigan State Police, and that has actually increased slightly. They hope to add even more. You can see the quality of life, like percent of general fund committed to arts and culture. We can start to put how many trails we have or how many sidewalks or other different things that we want that add to the quality of life we can add or delete to this process. So one of the things that staff wants to do over this course of this next year, is this the right tool for us, and is this accurately displaying our community? And those are some things we're kind of working through. And I know that Munitrix as well is working, they have a user group to try to make sure that, again, that they're accurately reflecting, you know, where we are, where other communities are as well. And I don't know, Buzz, if I missed any key information that you think they need to see. It's kind of interesting. I encourage residents to play around with all of the reports. Depending on what you click on, it can go in many different directions. So I didn't know if...
could you scroll up a little bit? I thought I'd point out. I think the staff should be applauded here because this is very well filled out. I might mention that the state has provided from Department of Treasury the data for 2006 through 10 for F65 data only. The fiscal indicator scoring data for 2010 hasn't been released yet. So if you see in that the fifth column over, there's your fiscal indicator score. It's a single digit, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're trending. There's an algorithm that calculates how fiscally distressed a municipality is. The higher the number, the more distressed it is. And it's a scale of 0 to 9. Your highest number was 4. And the state hasn't released those numbers yet. So what the staff here has done is they've keyed in the data that's required for 10, 11, 12, 13, and the algorithm is projecting for you what your fiscal score will be. I think that's fantastic. There's only a few communities in the state that have actually been doing that. So that's one of the real powers of the tool, is that it takes historic data that is available, but then it allows you to start projecting. And I could show you, you got the score of 2010, you got a score of 4. Because your population was down from the 2000 census. You got another point because your taxable values were down, and you got another point because your taxable values were down by more than 4%. That's virtually everybody in Southeast Michigan. Your fourth point came, and I'll show you. Scroll down a little bit more, April, if you would, on the screen to the reports. And underneath the fiscal distress indicator factors, your operating deficit. Now, take a look at that. This is one of the factors that's used to calculate that score. And you can see the dip in 2010. But then your projections are that you've recovered from that in 11, 12, 13. You're above, in the green, as we say. So you're back to scoring a 0. So I think that's a remarkable, you know, with the staff, that's what they've done here to, you know, analyze and manage to the benchmarks as what's happening there, which is, I think it should really be applauded.
You could also go on, if you go on the year, for instance, 2010, there's a lot more detail, whereas the front page is just more of a summary, so people can take a look at the budget as more of a whole.
Could you drill down on 2011?
Yep.
I'll show you another one. If you go down on 2011, it's amazing how these graphs tell stories.
You want 2011?
11, right. And then do how a community allocates its money report. This is a place where you might want to put a note. I imagine there was some massive public works expenditure for 2011. The blue bars here are benchmarks. These are best practice benchmarks from the International City Managers Association. So you can see that Ferndale is trending very nicely with the benchmarks, except when you look at public works in 2011. So I'm assuming there was some big expenditure. I'm not sure what it was, but that would probably warrant a footnote that you could put into the tool, and it would display on the graph for the citizens when they take a look at that.
So I encourage council to play around and see, and if they have any further questions, we can go over it again at a different time. But I wanted to introduce you to the program, and we're still learning it as staff as well. But this will get us to our October 1st deadline. We're going to be turning those forms in by the end of the week to ensure that we do indeed have our stuff in time for our revenue sharing. But it's more important, too, is we want to make sure that this is the appropriate tool to help residents understand and feel that they're getting the information that they need. So we'll be reviewing that over the course of the next year as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, April. Are there questions or comments from council? I guess I have just a couple of comments. Number one, I don't necessarily agree with everything that the governor proposes, but I am in full support of this. I think this is a wonderful idea, and I hope our residents take advantage of the opportunity to look. I mean, when people say that we're not open and transparent and they don't know what's going on, it's all in there. There's no hiding the data from there. So I think it's a wonderful tool for our residents, and I'm happy that we're doing it. A couple of things that I just noted in there, those crime statistics. I'm hearing a lot now about, do we have a crime wave going on in Ferndale? Because there have been some high-profile incidents lately. You see by that data, and the chief has put together a 5-year graph of crime in Ferndale. And I was hoping he might make this point in his presentation later, his comments later, but crime is actually trending down in Ferndale. I know that because a couple of the incidents have been high-profile, that it may feel otherwise, but crime in our city, and that's just year by year, but over the last 5 years has actually been trending down, thanks in great part to our great police department. But I just wanted residents to know that, and maybe the chief can reiterate that later, but there is a perception, and I understand why, that it might be something different. And the last thing I'm just going to, I want to point out, when you look at those budgets, and it has it all the way to 2013, and now we're down to a 1 out of 10, which is the best score that we can get, which is wonderful to see. A lot of people asked me when I introduced the idea of a 2-year budget, you know, what really is the value of that? But I think you begin to see, we now have our budget complete. We can change it, but we have it complete through 2013. Very few cities have that data through 2013. There's not a lot of cities that have multi-year budgets. But then what it allows you to do is, in a graph like this, begin to see the problems earlier and react to them sooner. And so I'm delighted to see 2013 in there as part of our now multi-year budgeting process. So a couple of things I was excited to see in there. All right, thank you, April, for that presentation. And thank you for your help with all of that. There isn't an item C in presentations, but I wanted to take a quick, maybe not so much presentation, but an introduction. I mentioned at the last council meeting that I'm working on this backpack program, and there are a number of community organizations that have stepped up to help me coordinate it. And one of the community leaders that is helping me with that is here tonight. And I want to just have her come up for a second and just introduce her to folks. And that's the Reverend Kathy Feldposh. She's from the First Baptist Church of Ferndale, if those of you who are not familiar with that church. Shirley from our church is here as well. Thank you, Shirley, for coming. And I just wanted you to introduce yourself, tell folks a little bit about your church and where you're at and that sort of stuff. I really appreciate I caught you off guard. Thanks, Reverend.
And I'm the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Ferndale. One of the things that we do.
Look this way, though, because believe it or not, more people are looking at you now on camera than behind you in the auditorium.
One of the things that we do is to do outreach ministries. And we really felt that this was an opportunity for us to become involved in something that's bigger than we are. And we just are very, very happy to be a part of this. So
where's your church, Reverend? Just so folks know.
Pinecrest and 9 Mile, right behind the Payless Shoe Store.
There you go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reverend, thanks for your help, and thanks for coming
It's a
tonight.
pleasure.
Yeah. Credit Union 1 and the Drayton Avenue Presbyterian Church are also participating in that. So just wanted to introduce the Reverend Kathy Feldposh. That concludes presentations for this evening. Our next order of business would be call to audience. As folks know, I think, call to audience is up to 30 minutes now, more time later if needed, to talk about anything that they like that's not on the agenda. If it's on the agenda, I'll ask that you speak about it during that portion of the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. State your name and address, or write it on the sign-in sheet in the back so that our city clerk may record the information. And now at 7:58, I open call to audience. Good evening.
City Council, Evan Sissel, 921 West Drayton. I am here speaking on the graffiti initiative I have. I actually have people willing to participate, but everybody's big question is what funds are available, because the paint is not, it's very expensive, so it's kind of hard to get this sort of project going without any sort of funding. That's been a big concern. So I was just wondering if is there any funding options you guys could, let me know about right now, or?
Well, let me back up by asking you this. Last time you were here, I asked you to contact our city manager and our police chief. Have you done that?
Yes,
Are you working with them?
Yeah, I'm working with them, but I was just, basically up here because, just as far as funding situations, and I have been working with them, but I was just, wondering if there's any answers right now. I know she just spoke about the funding that Unitrex, whatever that was, but I don't know if there's any specific funds that go to projects that people are trying to start. I'm not sure. That's why I wanted to come up here and ask.
So let me ask our city manager about that meeting. Thanks.
I don't know if Derek, if you have any more comments to make on it. One of the things Derek met with Adam, correct? Evan. Sorry.
Yeah, Evan.
About this, the possibility of having kind of a program dedicated to graffiti artists, where they could actually, either we would find a wall within the city on somebody's property, or even in the Rust Belt as well, to kind of take a look at making more of an event out of it. Is that correct?
Exactly, and it's more up to the private business owners, obviously, but there's also, I want to get any further, there's a competition that is specific guidelines my friend had emailed to me, but it's actually worldwide. It can be a piece anywhere, but it's not, basically, if this could go through, and this competition, this event could go through, the mural could be painted, and then they could enter that mural into a competition that's worldwide, and that would get these, individuals, whomever they may be, some free paint, a bunch of stuff, sponsorship, stuff like that. So I think that'd be really cool too, to help someone else out as far as their art interests go. Because most of the students I've been talking to are from CCS, so they're really heavily involved in the graffiti community and art scene as well.
So we've gone 360 from eliminating graffiti to creating.
Exactly, and that's the
point. April, so are we? Where do you see us in terms of working with this group? In terms of at least the graffiti elimination,
Sure.
Is there a possibility of working with?
Well, it's not necessary. There's a whole separate issue of graffiti elimination, but this was intended, he was looking at possibly starting a special event. So we've asked him to.
Okay,
right.
That's a whole separate issue. Yeah. So, well, I would say continue to work with us. I don't know the answer to that today.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Evan. Thanks for all your work.
Yep.
Anyone else for a call to audience this evening? Please, yeah.
My name's Doug Penny. My address is 28525 Regent Court, Southfield, Michigan. I'm with Community Graphics. I'm the fellow who did the Ferndale commemorative poster. In my travels this summer, I had the pleasure to meet the mayor at Meet the Mayor night. Told him what I was doing. He was really excited about it. And then as I finished it up, I said, I'm going to have a framed copy for the library in the City Hall. And he said, well, why don't you come down to council and present it? So I guess he's going to learn his lesson. He shouldn't throw out invitations like that, or I end up there.
And tell the residents a little bit about what you do before you present
Okay, what I do is I do these commemorative posters. They're posters that promote the community as a good place to live, work, play, and do business. I've been doing this for 17, going on 18 years. The very first poster I ever did was Ferndale 17 years ago. So I figured it was about time to do another one. So when I decided to do one, I went down and I talked to Jennifer at the Chamber of Commerce, and she was very receptive. And then we went out and did it. What I would like every city I did to be as helpful and as friendly as Ferndale was. Everybody was, a pleasure to work with, and it just made my job that much more easier.
Love to hear that. Thank you.
Also, what we did is everything that I needed done, other than the person who does my graphics, we used Ferndale businesses. I used Lenny's Copy Center. I used state-of-the-art framing. I used Ferndale Friends. And I did Allied Printing. In fact, I had a printer in Royal Oak I had been using for years, but we're going to be using Allied from now on because not only do I like their work, most importantly, I like their price. So
Great.
I have these framed copies for you.
I'll come up and receive it. Thank you, Doug.
And you're going to have to excuse me. I ran around tonight. I thought I had 5, but I only have 4. I have a framed copy, a wall laminate copy for each of the council.
That is so
Lovely, and just for people, to show the residents what it looks like, it has all sorts of Ferndale businesses on there, and their address, and a great way to promote the businesses and promote Ferndale. Really happy to get it. We'll hang it somewhere prominently, so I appreciate it.
I'm very happy to be able to give it to them. Here's laminates for any council members who would like one. City attorney would like one. I ran out of the house. I know I needed 5, but I only had 4. But since Scott's law firm is handling the case for me, I'll drop off his at his office.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. It's always nice to get presents. Good evening.
Hi, I'm Krista Johnston, and I'm here to tell you that Woodward Avenue Brewers is very proud to present the 4th annual DIY Street Fair, where we celebrate those with the do-it-yourself spirit. The DIY Street Fair is a free fair, and it's this Friday through Sunday, September 16th through the 18th. We have over 100 tents showcasing wares from local artists and entrepreneurs, 55 Michigan craft brewery selections, 70 local bands, food booths from great area restaurants, a free kids zone on Saturday and Sunday from noon to 6, sponsored by Garden Fresh Salsa and the Ferndale Public Library. There's a lot of fundraising opportunities at DIY. The Galloway Collins Community Booth / lemonade stand raises money for wonderful local charities, including Camp Casey, a Ferndale-based children's cancer charity, and of course Fern Care, among others. Concessions like cotton candy and popcorn and the dunk tank all raise money for Ferndale's PTA, and we're still looking to fill a few spots, so if we'd be particularly honored to have our distinguished new mayor get wet for Ferndale Public Schools.
Oh
if you're free.
Oh
See me?
We'll talk.
Okay. This year we have a second beer garden, and all the tips generated on Saturday and Sunday goes to the Ferndale Educational Foundation. It's a great organization that benefits all the schools in the district. And something that's really close to our hearts at Woodward Avenue Brewers, the Emery, is that it is an extremely green event. And we're happy to say that the Ferndale Environmental and Sustainability Commission, along with the Sierra Club, headed up by Douglas Christie, is handling our recycling effort, and they really just do an amazing job. So we encourage everybody to recycle that day, as among other days, of course. And as I've said this before, but it's really fitting, the DIY Street Fair is WAB's love letter to Ferndale. It's put on by your neighbors. The sponsors are your neighbors. It's a great weekend to showcase all the jewels that Ferndale has to offer, and I hope you'll join us on Friday through Sunday, September 16th through the 18th. It's on East Troy Street in Woodward, right behind the WAB and the Emery, in between the Emery and the library and the 2 parking lots behind there. Friday it kicks off at 5 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday it starts at 11 a.m. And for all the schedules and more information, just please see our website, DIYstreetfair.com.
Great. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much. We'll talk about the dunk tank. Anyone else like to address council this evening? Douglas, good evening.
Yes, I will go next. Douglas Christie, hello, council, mayor, Ferndale resident. Yes, as Krista said, I will be recycling this weekend. And we would love to have everybody that is attending and recycling and hanging on to their souvenir beer cup. I don't want to have to shine a flashlight in your face to tell you that does not belong in the trash. So definitely hope to see everyone at DIY this weekend. Before this weekend, however, is Green Tuesday, and for those of you watching live and here tonight, that would be tomorrow the 13th at the Ferndale Library, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. And tomorrow's topic, again, is composting. And the presentation will be by SACWA, which is the Southeastern County Water Authority. Their Garden and Water Authority Division will be doing that presentation. It's hands-on. There'll be a video demonstration, handouts, and composting, and different stages of composting will be passed around so you can get your fingers dirty if you want to. It's a great educational event. If you've ever wondered how to start composting in your backyard, this is the perfect time to do that with leaf collection coming around. And that will be explained how to do that. So
At what
again,
time, Doug?
That's 6:30 to 8 o'clock.
6:30 to 8 o'clock.
It's a Green Tuesday, which is always the second Tuesday of each month at the Ferndale Library. And it's a free event. It's open to Ferndale and non-Ferndale residents. And we hope to see you there on Tuesday.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address council this evening? Okay, I guess that's it for this evening. Thank you. The end of call audience. Our next agenda item is the consent agenda. Now, all of these items are on the consent agenda are considered routine by council, and we enact them in one motion unless there are items removed. Dan, Chris.
6B.
6B, you would like to remove from the consent agenda. Yes. Any other items?
I would move that we accept the consent agenda with the exception of item 6B.
Moved by Baker.
Support.
Supported by Piana, and let me read for the record the consent agenda this evening. Item A.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was premature. Was my motion premature?
Nope, I asked for it,
Okay.
so that's okay. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held August 22nd, 2011. B has been removed. C is the approval to fill the lieutenant vacancy as submitted by the chief of police. D is the approval to fill the service aide vacancy, also submitted by the chief of police. E is the approval of special event permit for Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's Run Like Hell 5K run on Friday, October 28th. F is the approval of ordinance number 1116 to amend Chapter 7, Business Regulation and Licenses generally regarding hawkers, peddlers, transient merchants, and concessionaires. G is the approval to enter into a contract with the Oakland County Board of Canvassers to provide election canvass services for local elections. H is the approval to accept the bid from the Thomas Company for $32,780 to enlarge 2 bay doors openings at the fire headquarters on Livernois. I is approval of the bills and payrolls as certified by the city manager to be paid subject to review of the council finance committee. There is a motion and second, but if there are additional items that council would like to pull, I would be open to that. If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll on the consent agenda, please?
Certainly. Council members Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon is up. Mr. Lennon?
Yes.
Piana? Yes. Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. The consent agenda passes. Now on to the regular agenda. Regular agenda item A, confirmation of the appointment of Jason Arnold to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term ending December 31st, 2013. Is there a motion?
I move to confirm the appointment of Jason Arnold to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a term ending December 31st, 2013.
Support.
And moved by Baker, or Piana, supported by Baker. Are there comments or questions about this item?
I have a question for Councilwoman Piana. I know that the BZA isn't meeting a great deal lately, but it looks like there are going to be 2 alternate positions open. What type of people would you encourage to apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals, I don't think has, we had 1 meeting this summer, and we've had 2 meetings, I think, this whole year, and 2 alternative positions have opened. So for the application, we are looking for, and it's in the application, we are looking for people who have experience in architecture, building construction, and engineering, geographical information systems, or GIS, AutoCAD, which is software, land use or data software, land use planning, real estate development, law, and zoning experience. People who do serve on the Board of Zoning Appeals are interpreting our zoning ordinance, so you need to like reading city law to serve on the board.
And my understanding is Jason was
Yes, Jason has been serving as an alternate. And I think City Council approved the alternate positions almost 2 years ago, and it's working out very well. And the intent of the alternate positions was to avoid having to move a Board of Zoning Appeals meeting because not enough Board of Zoning Appeal members were able to attend for that meeting. So it's working out quite well.
Any other questions or comments on this item? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That appointment is approved. Item B on the regular agenda is the consideration to set a public hearing date for the establishment of an industrial development district for Garden Fresh Gourmet located at 1220 East 9 Mile Road. Councilman Lennon.
Well, I don't see a problem me voting on just setting a date, but items C, D, E, and F, I'm going to recuse myself due to the fact I am an employee at Garden Fresh.
Fair enough.
So avoid any proprieties.
Very good. Is there a motion to set this date?
I move that City Council schedules the public hearing regarding the request to establish an IDD district at 1220 East 9 Mile Road for the regular meeting on September 26, 2011.
Moved by Piana, supported by Baker. Any comments or questions? Just for the benefit of the listening public, these next 4 items where we will be having public hearings will actually be occurring at our next city council meeting. So if you have questions, comments, concerns about establishing these districts, the next council meeting we will be having the public hearing, and that would be an appropriate time to come and express your comments or concerns. Anything else? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Piana?
Yes.
Baker? Yes. Galloway?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Item C, similarly, consideration to set a public hearing date for an industrial facilities exemption certificate for Garden Fresh Gourmet, 1220 East 9 Mile Road. Is there a motion?
I would move to schedule a public hearing regarding the application for an industrial facilities exemption certificate at 1220 East 9 Mile Road to be held at the regular meeting of the City Council on Monday, September 26, 2011.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Galloway. Any comments or questions on that item? Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That public hearing is set. And finally, our next public hearing would be the consideration to set public hearing date for the industrial facility exemption certificate for Garden Fresh Gourmet for 1501 to 1505 Bonner in Ferndale.
I move that City Council schedule a public hearing regarding the application for industrial facilities exemption certificate at 1501 and 1505 Bonner to be held on Monday, 26, 2011.
Support.
So moved by Piana, supported by Galloway. Any questions on that one? Madam Clerk.
Councilmembers Baker? Yes. Galloway?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you very much. That concludes our public hearings, which again will all take place at our next regularly scheduled council meeting. Next regular agenda item is item E, consideration of special event permit for Camp Casey. Who would be here? Good evening.
Hi, my name is Molly Reeser, and I work for Camp Casey. We are a Ferndale-based nonprofit horseback riding program for kids with cancer. And Ferndale has really embraced Camp Casey. We have lots of our fundraisers in this wonderful town. Several of our board members reside in Ferndale. I myself live in Ferndale, and countless of our volunteers come from this community. Last year, we had a chili cook-off. We worked with Dino's Lounge, and we took over the library parking lot and put on a chili cook-off that was an enormous success, but it didn't raise the kind of money that we really needed. We spent a lot of money on the prep work for it, countless man hours putting on this event, but it just didn't so much make as much money as we needed it to. So we decided, well, we can probably put the same amount of work into this and spend the same amount of money, but make it a little bit bigger. Have it not so much under a tent like it was last year, and have it in a way that it could appeal to a larger crowd. So we've come up with the idea to have Camp Casey Fest, which takes our chili cook-off and combines it with an all-day music festival. We have local artists who are interested in signing up as vendors, local restaurants, and also having the same idea of the chili cook-off. Additionally, we have been contacted by Josh Grayson, who is a recording country music artist, and he's interested in coming on board to play a concert for us. We've been working extensively with Michael Larry and with Chief Collins, and we also met with the committee, the Special Events Committee, who really embraced us and gave us a lot of great tips and ways to make this as safe of an event as possible. But we would like to be considered for an official yes from your team here.
Thank you. Thank you, Molly. And Sherilyn, I assume this got a affirmative vote from the Special Events Committee?
Your Honor, I'm going to turn this over to Michael Larry. He has really handled the reins on this one.
Okay. Just, I mean, you don't need to go into detail, but I just want, make sure everybody's on board.
It's unanimous support from the Special Events Committee.
Awesome. Thank you. It sounds like a really fun event. I know you're from Ferndale. One of you are actually on Leroy, correct?
That's me.
Is that you?
Uh-huh.
I'm like 3 hours down from you because I always see your
Well,
trailer
excuse
in
my lawn that's not always maintained.
Not why I brought it up. Sounds like a really fun event. Is there any questions of council? Did you mention the dates?
It's October 15th. It's also the same day as the Michigan State game, which we hope to really incorporate some team spirit into the day's events.
Questions of council?
Your Honor, there is one slight change to the proposed motion in your packet, and that is we got today an update on the police department estimate. It's about $400 more than originally anticipated. Camp Casey's been notified. They're okay with it, but I just want to make that clear as you make your motion that we include that estimate now, and it should be about $400 estimate more.
More than, okay. And you guys, that's okay? Okay.
I would make a motion then.
Please.
I would move to approve the special event permit for the Camp Casey Fest on October 15th, 2011, from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m., as outlined in the Special Events Committee summary, reflecting a consensus of the Special Events Committee and including the updated police department cost estimates.
Support.
Moved by Baker, supported by Lennon.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Any last additional questions or comments by council staff?
Yeah, I just can't find it in here. I thought I saw it somewhere, but how many people are you expecting?
What's the 2,500? I think it said on the application.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, it's right up front. I'm looking for it in the details.
Okay.
Yes, right.
All right, if there's no further questions or comments, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Council members Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. Thank you and good luck, Molly, with that event. Our next item on the regular agenda is item F, consideration of resolution amending the concessionaire license for Charity Mendoza of Detroit Underdog. And I think this was came up at our last meeting with some questions, and Madam Clerk, I believe you
This one I'll take.
Okay.
The city manager and the Mendozas and I met following the last council meeting, went over the parameters of the current ordinance, and got an understanding from the Mendozas that they understood, and they also offered us some helpful input as we go forward on refining this. At the time, they slightly amended the additional hours they had previously requested, basically just extending the 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. from Wednesday through Thursday, and then 10 a.m. through 3 a.m. Friday through Sunday, till 5 p.m. the other days of the week. We have no problem with that. At the time, they also requested an additional location, 262 West Troy Street, which they designated as Rosie O'Grady's, and provided a map that's included in your packet. There were some concerns from the police department and the DDA about safety in that location because of the Allen-Troy intersection already being confusing enough. And the DDA voiced additional concerns with the fact that Rosie's has an extensive hot dog menu, and we're trying to avoid mobile vendors abutting a direct competitor. The Mendozas contacted me after I told them I was going to recommend that we not approve that location, to say that their intent was to only be in that location from midnight until 3 a.m., which was new information. With that, the DDA wasn't quite so concerned, but it didn't alleviate the chief's concerns. Now apparently they are telling the chief that their intent is actually to be one building over, not really behind Roses, but behind the other building. I'm sorry?
That was actually the understood stuff that was considered, that's correct.
Okay, but that, it just wasn't clear. So, my recommendation is I'm okay with the hours. If we want to consider this location, and I'm still not sure that the police department is real comfortable with that it's something that staff go back and review now that we have a better idea of what it is they're really asking for. So my recommendation would be that we can extend the hours, but at this point I would not recommend the additional location.
And we have, obviously, representatives from Detroit Underdog. Welcome again.
Mr. Mayor and City Council. Just to clarify as well, like I spoke with Christina of the DDA, and she is in support of this, and she said that she was okay with it. We took pictures of the area, the spot that we are intending on being in front of, which is actually right next to Rosie's. We measured it as well. There's plenty of room. It was 15 feet by 12 feet. Which is more than enough room for the cart, as well as being able to have room for pedestrians to walk through, as well as have enough space on either side so that people aren't in the street as well. We also spoke with Brian Kramer about the possible, competition thing between his hot dogs and mine. He's okay with us being there. We spoke to him and let him know that we wouldn't be there or attempt to be there until his kitchen was closed, and he said that he was in support of it as well. So just to bring that up for you, to consider. And we also have the pictures. Well, we can bring the pictures as well if we could speak with the police chief maybe on another day and to go over this further.
Just for my clarification, is 262, is that the apartment building that's next door?
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may,
Yes.
I have not seen these pictures either. I did, however, speak with representatives of the DDA tonight about this very subject, and the indication to me was they were not in support of this location. And I have not heard anything from Mr. Kramer, and that would be additionally important if, to get something in writing from him.
We can forward you the emails that we had. We had email correspondence with him, so we can forward you the emails that we had back and forth with Mr. Kramer.
Your Honor, with this being so very nebulous, I would recommend that we not rule on that tonight.
But the rest of this resolution is the expanded hours? Is it additional locations, just so I understand this correctly?
No,
It's
the
current location.
resolution is for the additional hours, but not the additional location.
And we took care of the private property question as part of the consent agenda.
That's correct. Private property is now excluded from the parameters of the ordinance.
Are there questions of fact from council before we get to a motion? Are there questions that folks have?
Yeah. How many carts are you actually operating?
I just operate one cart.
So you have one cart, six locations?
Well, the 4 locations, one being actually my wife's business, which is Greenleaf Bodywork, but we're not really able to use that because of the I spoke with the fire chief, and he said that there was the overhang that comes over her business. There's a vestibule there that's big enough for the cart, but because of the overhang, that's against fire code, so we can't use that location actually. And then we have Huntington Bank, and we also have the Rust Belt, and Ferndale Arts Building.
In the Arts Building, okay.
Generally, for this new location is, obviously designed just for bar crowds, bar nights.
Sure.
Being in front of Huntington Bank has not been very very profitable. Most of that being because of the fact that people, when they leave Rosie's or they leave B-Dubs, they go through the back, and that's where all the, everyone's parked in the back, so they don't really come through that way. So that's generally why we're looking to change that location, or change, the general location that we would be in, because we would get much more possibilities, a lot more traffic coming through, and believe that it would be better for our business as a whole.
Additional questions of council? All right. A motion would be in order.
So the suggestion is to extend the hours and table the new location until we can get some clarity from staff? Is that?
That's my
I think
recommendation.
that's the recommendation.
And
What's the feeling of council?
I'll make the motion. If it's seconded, I'll let you know what I'm thinking, 'cause it's not a question. I would move to adopt the resolution amending the concessionaire license for Charity Mendoza of Detroit Underdog to operate a hot dog cart on city sidewalks in front of Rust Belt Market near 306 West 9 Mile, 195 West 9 Mile, and 251 and 253 East 9 Mile, from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday, from 10 p.m. to 3 a.m. Wednesday through Thursday, and from 10 a.m. to 3 a.m. Friday through Sunday.
Support.
And we know those are the right hours.
Those are the right hours. Let me question the 251, 253 East 9 Mile, which is Greenleaf. Is what they're saying, Chief, correct? That you're not recommending that we authorize the cart in that? Right. So
Yeah,
we need to strike that, I think, from the resolution then. They're not authorizing them to do the cart at Greenleaf.
Okay.
And then the 195 West 9 Mile is the one that the clerk is expressing some concern?
No.
That would be 262 Troy, West Troy.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one that's not in the motion. Well, I'll make if my seconder will accept it, I'll make a friendly amendment to the motion to remove the addresses of 251 and 253 East 9 Mile Road.
I'll support that.
Okay. So now on this issue, I guess I personally would, I hear what you're saying, I'd like to hear from Christina, I'd like to hear from the chief and from Brian, and you know,
Sure.
not that I don't trust what you're saying,
Oh, of
but
course,
just to
I
hear
have
from
no-
the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Yeah, that's no problem.
That's okay, and we'll revisit it if you know.
Thank you for your
if that's
consideration.
appropriate.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that corner in particular, it's the same line of thinking or similar line of thinking to when someone wanted to put the taco truck right near the bus stop and the intersection, sort of near the Rust Belt Market and the organic food market. So there's already sort of a circulation problem in a couple places in our downtown. And that intersection, particularly with the narrow sidewalks, not where you guys want to be, but on the Allen Street side, people don't see pedestrians. People are darting back and forth. I would like to sort of, like you said, get it from the horse's mouth that Christina and Chief Collins feel that there is in fact enough room to safely operate in that space where we already have a problem of pedestrians kind of darting back and forth.
Yes, and we can, you know, when we all meet, we'll bring the pictures as well, so you know exactly where we're talking about, so that you know that, you know. All right.
Good. Thank you. Any additional comments?
Yeah,
Yes,
I just
no.
want to make sure that we've been consistent with all of the concessionaire licenses. In the ordinance or in the, for the resolved section, it says council is waiving prohibition in Chapter 7, Article 4, Section 7, against selling in a fixed location on a street corner or public right-of-way for longer than 2 hours. So that's not just specific to their license, it's,
And
right?
as a matter of fact, I noticed when I was revising this resolution for the new hours that we had not waived that restriction for them, even though we had waived it for the other concessionaires. So I added it to the resolution to be consistent.
It's also important to note, just on this note as well, that Clerk Tallman has been started a meeting with the DDA to come up with a more comprehensive plan of how we're going to work with the food vendors in the future as well. So we'll continue to keep working with everybody, but we also are looking at a more formal plan of action and how we want to handle that.
I imagine it'll turn into something like the sidewalk cafe process, where it's something that once it gets established, everyone knows what to expect, and then it comes around.
That's our hope.
It'll just take a little while to get established.
Good. All right, if there's no other comments, Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Councilmembers Lennon?
Yep.
Piana? Yes. Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. Thanks, guys. Our next regular agenda item is G, consideration of a resolution supporting a statewide and national ban on hydraulic fracturing for natural gas and supporting the FRAC Act and BREATHE Act. And Mayor Pro Tem Baker, I believe you introduced this item. Do you want to?
I did. I asked that this be added to our agenda after hearing from a number of residents, including my mother, who I hear from regularly, asking whether or not the city would consider signing on to something like this. Again, my mom was particularly proud that the number of residents in Ferndale that had signed on to support this was twice as many as had signed on in Ann Arbor, a much larger city. So I know our Environmental Sustainability Commission is one of the groups that brought this to residents' attention, and Lynette is helping, or has joined us to help explain a little bit about the reason that the Environmental Sustainability Commission thought this was important for us to address.
Great. Thank you, Councilwoman Baker, for offering up the resolution, and thank you, Council, for considering it. Tonight I'm here as a Ferndale resident, but in addition to that, I work for Food and Water Watch, and I'm representing our 95 Ferndale supporters, as well as the Ferndale Environmental Sustainability Commission, of which I've been a member since 2007. Hydraulic fracturing, or fracking, is the process of injecting water, sand, and chemicals at high pressure into the ground in order to split it open and release natural gas from the bedrock. Fracking has been going on in Michigan since the 1960s. There's approximately 12,000 wells have been dug here. These are typically shallow wells, 500 to 2,000 feet deep, that use roughly 50,000 gallons of water to frack. Now, however, there's new technology, unconventional technology, which is being used to access deeper deposits of natural gas. This new technique is called horizontal fracking. It allows us to access gas 7,000 to 12,000 feet deep, and then the drill bit is able to turn and go horizontally up to a mile. This particular type of fracking can use up to 5.5 million gallons of water to frack open one well, and as many as between 500 and 700 different toxic chemicals. Of concern is the water that's being used to frack the well, but in addition to that, 40 to 70% of that water is brought back up, which is now contaminated with those chemicals as well as the sand. And so treating that as a problem, our wastewater treatment facilities aren't really equipped to handle that. So the process of fracking poses unacceptable risks to both our water resources and public health. So far, over 80 municipalities across the country have passed measures to ban or limit fracking. Just a couple statistics in other states where fracking has been going on for a while. There's been over 1,000 documented cases of water contamination. In the Midwest, where fracking is increasingly common, residents have reported complications ranging from headaches and blackouts, noxious odors in the air, and sudden blindness. In addition, hair loss and death among livestock has occurred. Scientists at the Endocrine Disruptor Exchange, who have tested fracking fluids, found that 25% can cause cancer, 37% can disrupt endocrine system, and 40 to 50% can affect the nervous, immune, and cardiovascular systems. Additionally, a 2011 Cornell University study found that the process of fracking also releases methane, which, according to the EPA, is 21 times more damaging as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Similarly, a study released by researchers at Duke University in April found methane levels in shallow drinking water wells near active gas drilling sites at level 17 times higher than those near inactive wells. In the last year to 2 years, it's estimated that oil and gas interests have leased nearly $200 million worth of Michigan-owned drilling rights in the Collingwood-Utica Formation. This is a formation of shale, a deep shale that sits underneath Michigan. It's time that we truly protect pure Michigan and our state's tourism and agricultural industries ahead of greedy oil and gas interests. We need to support the industries that make our state great instead of selling off our natural resources to the highest bidder. In July, Buffalo City Councilman Richard Fontana called on Great Lakes cities to protect the water by passing legislation similar to Buffalo's fracking ban ordinance. Detroit answered that call earlier this summer by becoming the first city in Michigan to pass a fracking ban resolution. And I hope that you'll decide tonight to become the next Great Lakes city to pass a resolution supporting a ban.
Thanks, Lynna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If there's any questions.
Lynn is available for questions if there are any.
Are there any questions of council?
What is the governor's position on fracking?
We have I have not gotten a response from the governor, other than that currently in Michigan there are stricter regulations and federal regulations requiring reporting of chemicals that are used. That information still isn't available to the public, but it is available for first responders in the case that there's an accident. We really don't believe that that goes far enough, though, because just by knowing what chemicals in the water doesn't go to protect the water. You just know what's there. They're still going in.
And Governor Cuomo in New York's actively supporting it, and he's a Democrat. I mean, should we expect any better from our governor, or any indications from the legislature?
Well, there is some, I believe there is going to be some movement in the legislature this fall. I think that there have been, they're in the process of drafting legislation right now, I think both for a moratorium and a ban, but I think that those are still in the very beginning stages. But to your point about Governor Cuomo, New Jersey actually became the first state, both their Senate and Assembly passed a ban at the state level, and Governor Christie, who is a Tea Party candidate, actually supported a one-year moratorium. So I don't think that this, when we're talking about natural resources and public health, this should really be a nonpartisan issue.
I have one comment to add.
Sure.
I think it was last year or maybe 2 years ago that the state of Michigan was part of the Great Lakes Compact. That compact limited large water withdrawals, but fracking was exempt from that. So each state around the Great Lakes Compact is now passing their own fracking ban, moratorium, or policy against it, because it wasn't included in that legislation.
And if you don't mind, Mayor, I'd like to, just so that there isn't any confusion, we're not passing a ban on anything in Ferndale this evening. I wanted to just read the three therefore sentences, if that's all right.
That would be appropriate.
There is a long statement about the dangers of this practice to our natural environment, as was just stated, but what we would be supporting this evening would be that the City of Ferndale supports statewide and national bans on hydraulic fracturing for natural gas, that the City of Ferndale supports the FRAC Act and the BREATHE Act, and that copies of the resolution would be sent to our state representative, our congressional representative, and our U.S. senators.
What is the BREATHE Act?
So currently, fracking has been exempted from the Clean Water Act, the Safe Drinking Water Act, and the Clean Air Act. And so what the FRAC Act and the BREATHE Act attempt to do is begin to close those loopholes.
I'm happy to make a motion if there aren't any other questions from the table.
Motion would be in order.
I would move to adopt the resolution supporting a statewide and national ban on hydraulic fracturing for natural gas and supporting the FRAC Act and BREATHE Act.
Support. Moved by Baker, supported by Piana. Any additional comments or questions from council?
I know that this isn't something that we often do, things that are a lot larger than our city here. But I know that at certain times, when we see something that really represents who we are as a city, as an environmentally conscious, forward-thinking city. That I would hope that when we see things like that, we would consider passing them at this table. I think this is one of those things.
Madam Clerk?
Councilmembers Lennon?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you, that item
Thank you.
passes.
Thanks, Lena.
Our next agenda item would be formerly consent agenda 6B. Mr. Christ, you pulled that item?
Thank you, Your Honor. Before you this evening is a proposed amendment to the city's towing agreement, which would follow up with the police chief's recommendations that the city's towing contractor would undertake the impound duties that are currently undertaken by the city. There is a proposed First Amendment to the agreement, which is approved as to form. The proposed amendment provides that there would be a $35 administrative fee per impounded vehicle, which would be established, whatever the fee, the recommendation is $35 by the police chief, but it would be established by resolution. So I suggested that the matter be pulled from the consent agenda to allow council to specifically consider adopting a resolution establishing a $35 impound fee, as well as consider the adoption of the First Amendment to the agreement.
Do those need to be separate motions?
You can combine them, or you can adopt the, or consider the First Amendment and then consider the administrative fee.
Chief, any thoughts on this?
I have no objection to the motions presented by the city attorney. I have any questions that you may have regarding the proposal.
Yes. Hasn't there always been an administrative fee?
There's always been an administrative fee of $35. What we intend to do, the change is that we do not charge an administrative fee for our time and effort during traffic accident impounds.
Okay.
And we don't do it for private property tows. So the change would be is that although we would lose funding from the storage fees, we would pretty much replace that with charging insurance companies and individuals $35 for our time for private property tows and for vehicles that are towed at the scene of accidents.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So an appropriate motion then would be not only the motion before us, but to add specifically the allowance of a $35.
Establishing a $35.
Establishing a $35 administrative fee.
I would move that the city enter into an agreement with Monahan's Towing, Inc., 21680 Fern Street, Oak Park, Michigan, to take over the storing of all vehicles impounded by the Ferndale Police Department and to establish a $35 administrative fee as proposed by the police chief.
Good. Is there a support for that?
Support.
Yes. Moved by Baker, supported by Lennon. Any further discussion or comments on that issue?
I just appreciate that this is getting officers back on the street rather than waiting at the impound yard for someone to show up and pick up their car. Great idea.
And I conservatively estimate that the time savings would be about very conservatively, 249 hours of recovered time just in the impounds, which equates to about 31 days time recovered.
That's huge, and that more than compensates for the $20,000 revenue loss, because 31 days of police time, that's well more than $20,000.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Piana?
Yes.
Baker?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Lennon?
Yes.
And Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item passes. All right. Now it is time for the council liaison reports. Council members are liaisons to a number of organizations. Are there any liaison reports that council would like to report on this evening?
Yes.
Yes, Councilwoman Piana.
I would like to invite everybody from City Council and anybody from the community, as well as our planning director, to join the Michigan Suburbs Alliance on Friday, September 23rd for our annual meeting from 1 to 4 p.m. After 9 years of being in Ferndale, we are hosting our first annual meeting in Ferndale. Cool. And I'm really excited that the Magic Bag is going to be hosting our event. And then afterwards, we're having a young networking event with millennials at the Emery starting at 4 o'clock. So it's a great opportunity for
Yeah, but you're who we want to network with. So.
Oh, okay.
young professionals who are interested in interacting with some of their local government officials, not only within Ferndale, but around the region. We represent 30 to 40 communities, and they will be there at the Michigan Suburban Alliance annual meeting.
Excellent, thank you. Other reports from council this evening? All right, then we are on to call to council, and Chief Collins, I know you walked all the way back to the back of the room, but you want to come on back up?
Thank you, Your Honor. I wasn't prepared for making a crime stat statement, but
Okay,
I'm happy
you
to
need
do
put
so.
down this- you can just talk in broad terms.
In broad terms, there has been some discussion about the perception of increased criminal activity in our city. I've had some discussion with the media over this, some of the local media, also some of the elected officials and the city manager as well. I invite people to please visit our website. There is a very comprehensive set of data that the folks can see, maps, pin maps, crimes that are separated out, as well as the data that supports those different map points. There's also our annual report, which is going to show you the 5-year trends, and those go back several years, so you can actually go back farther than 5 years if you want to look at the different annual reports. It's our opinion that we are experiencing an uptick in some street crime. It is proportionately higher this year than last, street robberies. We have been successful in many of the apprehensions, so we're pretty much proud of that aspect of it. But I do believe one of the things that has changed in the last year or so is with the local-based internet reporting. We are seeing much more involvement by the public, and they're seeing the crime that's occurring in real time thanks to some of our internet-based. And we support that. We believe that that is a good thing for us. It keeps our citizens informed. It keeps them advised as to what's happening, tells them what the things to watch out for and from. But overall, you will see that, in fact, I just got new data today, we're still trending down. Some of the things that we are trending up in, and this, at least in this past summertime, is that we did have an uptick of about 400% in street crimes. Now, the problem with that is when expressed as a percentage, we went from 1 to 5. So there were 5 of them this past month, 3 of which that we apprehended the suspects in. So it's a crime of opportunity. It's something that the public needs to be aware of, and needs that you put yourself in situations where you're walking late at night. Please be careful where you're going. We'll go with other people, get to your cars, all those type of things. Our crime prevention information is on our website as well. But overall, crime is still trending down for us, and even those street crimes that we have experienced, we believe those to be situational crimes that occur because, the bad guys see an opportunity and take advantage of it. These type of things that we see don't typically, the offenders are not going out and specifically targeting an individual at a location. They will target someone because they see they're in the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong set of circumstances, and when those two factors meet, crimes occur. So please, we tell the citizens, please be careful where you're going, what you do, but you do not live in a dangerous city. So the people that want to put it out there that it's, and I've seen several negative comments about how it's dangerous in the city, and it is not. It's addressed. We still have an excellent response time. We still have an excellent clearance rate. We have a 99 to 100% clearance rate of the crimes that we do prosecute. The Oakland County prosecutor sends that out every month, and we're always at the top end of convictions. So we're pretty successful at what we do. And I do want to tell the citizens, do not think that you live in a crime-ridden city.
And that was my broader point. I didn't mean to put you on the spot about statistics. No, I didn't ask you to do that. That's the perception that
council asked us to do in the for the last year or more. We have been publishing those real-time crime data things so folks can see them, so what they are. And so we're proud of them. We're happy for the folks to see them.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it.
And with the GIS maps and things, it's really interesting to see where things happen. Sometimes there are perceptions that certain neighborhoods are less safe than others, and you often see that things happen in all neighborhoods. Which
and we like to see when things trend, that helps us. Those maps help us to see where we need to put resources out for larceny from autos and things of that nature. So it's a very, very positive thing for the folks to see.
Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Byron Fotides, you've had an interesting couple of weeks. I saw that the fire chief had to run out for a minute, so I'm skipping ahead to you.
First, how was your vacation? And then what did you come back to?
It was really boring. I wanted to give you an update on the cleanup, the storm cleanup.
Thank you.
We're about 95% done. We still have a few streets in the northwest part of town to clean up. The worst streets in the northwest part of town, Oak Ridge and Maplehurst, were pretty much cleaned up last week. The hardest hit part of the city was northeast Ferndale, basically north of 9 Mile, east of the railroad tracks. So we concentrated a lot of effort there. A lot of brush, most of the brush, in fact all the brush, a lot of the brush has not been chipped, it's all tangled. The contractors that people have hired pretty much have just thrown it at the curb and thrown the trunks on top of that, so that's made it difficult. So we've been hauling the debris to the Southwest Storage Yard, and SACRA is going to bring what they call a tub grinder. Basically a huge, what you might think of a tub on a trailer, and we're going to chip the brush there. It should take us maybe no more than 2 days, probably 1,000 cubic yards of chips, which is a lot of chips. And then we'll continue to go around the city, but on regular time, because people will continue to put brush out and so forth. So we're about 95% complete. We did work overtime, with the exception of Labor Day. The guys worked Saturday basically to clear the streets. We lost about 24 city trees. I can't tell you how many private trees were down. And we worked, and then we came in Sunday, did a lot of tree removals. Monday we took off. We had to give the guys some rest. And then, because we worked 15 hours Sunday. And then basically Tuesday through Thursday we worked overtime after 4, came in over the weekend. Royal Oak assisted us with a log loader truck and 2 people. We've also helped the city of Oak Park. They were hit real hard. The streets are bordering Ferndale. So it's been a cooperative effort. And SACRA will reimburse us for our assistance in Oak Park and for Royal Oak's assistance over the weekend with us. So if anybody has any questions.
Well, first of all, please express to your staff our appreciation. That was a long 3-day weekend. A lot of them were out of town. That wasn't what they were planning on doing, working 16 and 15 hours on Saturday. We're very grateful that the streets were cleared in a very quick amount of time, and we appreciate it. And also appreciate, because I had heard about the mutual aid that the cities have done to help each other out, and it's just a great example of collaboration and local communities working together. So it's Royal Oak and Oak Park. Appreciate that very much as well, and for all the stuff that your staff did.
Yeah, and I want to give thanks to my assistant, one of my assistants, Sean Slocum. He put in 75 hours this past week, and he's been pretty much directing the operation. And he's been there, and he's done a wonderful job. And I think we've done a pretty good job trying to, get it done a little over a week. I know there are some residents that are probably frustrated over on a couple of streets in Northwest Ferndale, but we tried to concentrate on the heavily hit area, which was Northeast Ferndale. They really got devastated. A lot of damage. We haven't touched any of the parks. Our goal was to get the brush off the streets. And then, of course, meantime, we put all our other work aside. Parks need to be mowed, bathrooms cleaned, garbage dumped in the parks, and so forth. So, but hopefully we can wrap this up. I know there'll probably be some brush that we'll still have to collect even into next week.
Thanks, Byron. Appreciate
it. Any questions?
Good work out there by your.
Okay, thank you.
All right, the fire chief may have left us for good. Maybe there's an incident going on. I hope everyone is good. All right, but we'll go to our city clerk, Cheryl Lynn. Anything this evening?
Just to reiterate what the city manager mentioned, we are moving forward on coming up with some changes to our concessionaires rules. The DDA executive director and I met last week. We came up with a list of suggestions, which she took to her business subcommittee. That actually turned into apparently a very long conversation, which they then brought to the DDA meeting last week, which I attended. Very interesting conversation and ideas coming from them as business people and representatives of the downtown area. So we are going to continue to explore that. They're going to form a special subcommittee. I'm going to be part of that. And we are going to see what we could come up with that draws the fairest line amongst all concerned parties.
Thank you.
We will have that ready for the season. Our goal is January, early February, to have it in place and ready to go.
I mean, just for background, we have never had this many concessionaire applicants before.
Certainly,
so this
my
is
friend has not
been a learning curve. Thank you,
Monopolized. You're welcome.
I see Derek Delacourt, Economic Development. How are you, sir?
Later note, I do have one thing to add. I know the City Council is aware that the Planning Commission has been working diligently on reviewing a potential chicken ordinance for the city to allow the keeping and raising of chickens. On a nicer note, in conversation with the Oakland County 4-H Poultry Club, the kids of the club have agreed to build a coop and bring it to City Hall Wednesday evening prior to the Planning Commission meeting. They've already built the coop. They're very excited. They're going to bring it down with several chickens, with examples of lighting and heating, storage, water, and basically be here to be a third-party, objective, reasonable voice in what it takes to raise and keep chickens in a city. So I wanted to give a little information out about the 4-H Club. They've been fantastic. You can find them on Oakland County's website. And from all understanding, the kids are very excited to be here. They'll be here probably a little bit earlier, but they should be set up about 6 o'clock prior to the Planning Commission meeting, and they and their parents will be here to answer any questions in regards to the proper keeping and raising of chickens in an urban environment. So,
and date and time, just
Wednesday the 14th at 6 o'clock here at City Hall, and we're very excited to have them.
Thanks,
so,
Jerry.
Thank you.
And the Planning Director and the Planning Commission, those who can arrive early, including myself, will be here to help talk with residents about some of the specifics of our ordinance, and I'll mention some of that at my call.
And we would encourage any residents. It's open to everybody, council members, any resident of the city, to come by and talk with the kids. They're excited to be here and kind of spread the knowledge they have in regards to this item. So thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. City Manager, April McGrath.
Yes, I have a few things. First and foremost, I want to say thank you for all of those who attended my welcome reception this afternoon at 6 o'clock. It was, 6 o'clock. It was really nice to be able to meet so many residents, and I really appreciate the opportunity that I was given to do that. I have two issues I'd like to talk about. I'd like to first and foremost thank the city staff for all of the hard work that they did with the storm. It was very settling to know that we had such a solid leadership team, and I felt very comfortable and fortunate in my short time here that I had people I could rely on, and they did an outstanding job. And I just want to reiterate that to council, that the all three departments were great through this whole process of of getting things managed over the weekend as well as the cleanup process, so I want to thank them. And I want to talk a little bit more about two things that came out of the storm is DTE and an emergency plan that the city is working on. I'm going to talk about DTE first. I was able to meet with DTE representative today, this afternoon, to talk a little bit more about where our status is with the issue that happened in July. And I was able to come up with a date that he could come and actually talk about the report and talk to council about a few goals for that particular meeting would be to, again, look at the report and talk about the document of what happened in July, with the goal at that meeting to look at what short-term goals that DTE has to address the issues that they found and also long-term goals of issues that they have found. They couldn't come tonight and they can't come to the next meeting, so I offered them to give me a date that they could, but I wanted it sooner than later. So what I'm recommending is a special meeting, if that is for people, if they are available, on Wednesday, September 28th at 7 p.m. That was a date that worked for Mike Palchesko, our DTE representative, as well as one of his engineers, and I was wondering if council, if that is a date that could work for them, and then we could promote that date, allow residents to come as well to hear and to talk to DTE about some of the concerns.
So council, what do you think about the 28th of September at 7 o'clock?
7 p.m. here at City Hall.
Works for me.
It works for me.
Sure. Mike? Yeah. Excellent, thank you
I
very
have one
much.
question.
Yeah, please.
I know a lot of residents are very interested in the outcomes of that report. Is there any way we can broadcast that? I know it requires staff to come in and set all that up, but it would be great if we could and then play it on our
Like have it on cable.
WFRN and stream it.
Yeah.
We can ensure
You
that Marty's
see-
there. Yep, definitely. I also wanted to talk a little bit more too about, in talking with DT, that they, some of the things that they did during the storm was they did bring a couple of engineers that were able to be here at City Hall to address, people were frustrated, residents were very frustrated with, rightly so they felt that they needed some face time and they were able to come out, and I appreciate that effort that they made to reach out to some of our residents. I did talk to DTE as well about where the status is with the credit, $25 credit, as well as it's also important to recognize that that residents can still, I believe, I don't think there's a deadline, a formal request for a claim if they lost, a lot of significant items within there, like, or hotel or whatnot, that they can file a separate claim other than that $25 credit for the, that they would get on their electric bill. He did indicate that they have received quite a few requests for the $25 credit as well as some other claims, and those are being processed. I talked to Mike about 6 o'clock. I asked for the status of where those were, and he said they are now being processed. So if that is okay, we will have a special meeting at 7 p.m. on Wednesday, September 28th here at City Hall, and staff will ensure the media is aware of that and try to get that information out for any resident who is interested in hearing about the situation. Also, too,
not to interrupt you, but that's an important point to make about the credit, because it was sort of, at least my understanding, when they were here last time, that the maximum you could get was a $25 credit. But they have explained to us that you can file a more comprehensive claim for additional damages.
I don't know
correct?
how much more they'll get, but
Right.
they are allowed to file a claim for that incident as well.
I want to encourage residents to do that.
I don't know, again, I tried to kind of narrow down exactly what they would cover and what they wouldn't. And he said, well, we've agreed that people can turn in other claims for this particular incident. So I can't guarantee anything more than the 25, but if you have significant issues, you probably wouldn't hurt to file a claim. With that too, and that would be, you can go online to DTE's website to do that as well. With that, I want to move on just a little bit on the status. One of the things that happened with the July incident as well as this current incident is that whenever there is an issue such as this, it gives opportunity to look at your process and how things work, and staff has been doing that. And one of the things that we have really been looking at is, communication has been kind of the biggest topic. And I think today we made a lot of headway with we have an emergency subcommittee. What we hope to do is bring on the 26th of September at the council meeting a brief overview of some of the adjustments and changes and of ways that we're going to be addressing our emergency management plan, but in particular focused mostly on communication. And clearly understanding that many times in a disaster situation that there may not be access to technology. So there's two forms of communication that need to take place. Those that are focused in utilizing the technology that we have capable and available to us, but then also at some point, communication is going to need to happen that does not include technology, and so we've taken that into consideration as well. So we'll be bringing forward some recommendations to council on the 26th as well, just as a conversation and gather any input that you have before we solidify that plan. But do know that we are working on how best to communicate with residents in situations where we're in some kind of disaster or in a time where we need to get involved in getting residents to understand what's happening. So that is in the works as well.
Excellent.
I have one more thing. As what we, the clerk and I had met again today to solidify some things in the website RFP, and our goal is to fix a few more things to make sure that we have a good product to send out and get that RFP for our new website out by the end of next week. But while we are doing that process, it'll take some time to get those RFP or people's proposals into the city. In the meantime, we would like to engage council in a conversation too about what their ideas and thoughts are that they would like to see in that new website, and we're wondering if you would be interested in meeting on before the meeting next week or on the 26th at maybe 7 o'clock. That gives us a half an hour to just really have an engaged conversation with council on some of the things that they'd like to see there, so that when we get that consultant on board, that we can at least have your input, and didn't know how you felt, if that would be something comfortable, or if you'd like to just do that during the regular meeting. 20, 30 minutes.
I'm looking at council. What is it?
I'm available at 7.
I'm available at 7.
That time's good.
That way we can have much conversation really focused on our website and what you'd like to see. So we're excited about getting that project up and going. So I think that's all I have for now.
Excellent. Chief Collins, did you want a part 2?
Just for the fire.
He's got a gun, so I give him as many parts as he wants.
I just got a call from the fire chief. His hiatus is in regards to a natural gas break, fairly significant at Troy and Paxton here. He wanted everybody to know that Troy is going to be closed just off of Woodward, and Paxton will be closed from 9 Mile to about Academy. They're still setting that up now. They're going to have a major crew come in to fix this line, apparently. So just so the public knows.
Thank
you. On a good note, though, Councilwoman Piana, your power's still on.
Thank you.
There's no evacuation going on.
Evacuation.
There's none of that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate it. Dan Christ, anything?
Very briefly, tonight on consent agenda, you approved moving forward with the consideration of a contract with the County Board of Canvassers. I received a copy of a proposed contract from the clerk earlier this afternoon, and that should be reviewed and ready for council's consideration at the meeting on the 26th.
Great. Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Baker.
3 things, if I can remember all 3. The storm, the chickens, and the DIY. So first, adding just another huge thank you to our Ferndale City staff, to all of the staff and contractors who came in to help Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge. The street that I grew up on in Pleasant Ridge will have a whole lot more sun gardens and a lot fewer shade gardens on Cambridge after this storm. It is amazing to me that no one was injured. I've heard all sorts of but-for stories, but for me being on vacation, that would have gone right through my bedroom or something. So I think that we should all just be very proud of our city workers for coming in and getting the job done, and thankful that no one got hurt, that perhaps there was some damage to our homes, to our cars, but thankfully not significant damage to people, just to property. And this is because I'm a zoning nerd and I love it, so I need to go through this a little bit just to do a little bit of prep for the public hearing, which I have several friends on the I want chicken side, and I have several friends on the don't ever put chickens in Ferndale side. So I'm squarely in the middle on the I need to learn more about this in order for us to effectively regulate it side. We've talked to a number of communities similar to Ferndale that have ordinances in place that actually aren't quite as strict as ours. Communities like Madison Heights, Hazel Park, Ypsilanti, Our Community and Economic Development Director has made a number of phone calls. Our city clerk has been involved in this. Our city manager has been involved in this, talking about permitting processes, talking about inspections. We don't have an animal control officer anymore, so there were several of us on the Planning Commission that were very concerned about how things might be enforced and permitted, and what happens if there are noise issues or odor issues. I think that we've all learned a lot on the Planning Commission. We've tried to educate ourselves, going over state and federal guidelines for the keeping of poultry, for the keeping of animals generally, what type of space they need, what type of housing they need to be adequately protected. So Ferndale has actually come up with, I think, a pretty strict ordinance about how we expect animals to be housed and maintained in the city of Ferndale. You can't just throw a tarp over your back patio and throw out some corn and say that you have a chicken coop. It is not going to work that way at all in Ferndale. The first question that I always get is about noise. In Ferndale, we would not allow anything other than hens, so no roosters in Ferndale. So I think that addresses a lot of the noise issue. A few other highlights have to do with the structure. There would need to be an enclosed structure that could not harbor rats or other vermin either under it or in its walls. So most likely you're talking about a raised and enclosed structure. Any type of chicken coop must be in the backyard. We were very specific about that, even sort of calling out exactly what a backyard means as defined in our zoning ordinance. Also went through call it the GAMPs, the Michigan Department of Agriculture Generally Accepted Agriculture and Management Practices for the Care of Farm Animals. Really took a look at how much space is required to safely and adequately house these types of fowl. We don't want animals crammed into something that's not safe and hygienic for the animals themselves. So we've referenced a number of things that we think will keep concerns about odor and noise and vermin at bay here in Ferndale. I would also just point out, and again encourage people to come on Wednesday to take a look at what a coop might look like. I've really not seen one. This is kind of the last piece of my education when it comes to potentially regulating urban chickens, is what in the world does a chicken coop really look like? So these students have taken a lot of time. They're really excited about showing us how we could potentially safely keep chickens. So please come out on Wednesday. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to have chickens on the front lawn of City Hall. How often does that happen? The whole idea was not so appealing to me at first, but I am coming around also based on the fact that other cities that do this have a lot of excitement at the beginning and people have a lot of reservations, and then a small number of people actually keep chickens and have very, very few, if any, problems. We've heard it over and over from urban communities that do this, that the people who really want to do it take the time, make the investment, do it right, and you don't end up with the problems that people fear. Then the last point, at the DIY Festival, I will be there with my charity hat on Sunday from 12 to 3 at the lemonade stand, fundraising for Fern Care, and then slinging beers from 3 to 6 for the Ferndale Education Foundation because I'm on too many boards. So please come say hello, support our local charities. You've got a lot of opportunities to do that at the DIY Fest because the Johnstons are great folks and give back to our community. And that's it.
Great. Thank you. Councilman Lennon.
I just want to reiterate, great job by all city staff and personnel, police, fire, DPW. City Hall, excellent job. The residents all pitched in and helped one another. Good work during the storm. I've been approached by 3 so far business owners that have outdoor patios. And I don't know if Madam Clerk or April, if you've been approached. They are inquiring, and this is still in the infancy stages, but they want to open their patios a little earlier, and they're looking around March 1st, just to accommodate St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, sidewalk cafe, so that would be a complete overall change of the ordinance, correct? Amendment? Well, that's something to put on the back burner for now. I know 3 establishments, but it'd be a little chilly out there, but.
Seems like it.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah.
Can you stay warm when you drink?
So that's something that's probably going to be coming to one of your desks pretty soon from, I told them to contact the DDA first to go from there. Okay?
Thank you.
Other than that, I have nothing.
Awesome.
Let's see the DIY.
Councilwoman Piana.
I just also wanted to say thank you to everybody on the city staff for the cleanup, and also to our new city manager who instilled the utmost confidence in me and council, as well as I think city staff, on how well you worked together with a very short time period to deal with an immense storm. You know, I've heard a lot of frustration in my neighborhood since July and this past outage, and the frustration is because we haven't had clarity and closure on the July, so I'm very thankful that DTE is coming and that we are going to have a special meeting just to talk about that. So thank you for setting that up and having another outlet for residents to hear really what the problem is with our electrical infrastructure. Kate, when I introduced to council to consider the chicken ordinance, because I am supportive of the ordinance. Of course, it's all in the details, and I'm looking forward to those details, and I will be at the Planning Commission meeting on Wednesday to learn about them. The other two items I wanted to talk about, this is partially Suburbs Alliance, but I am also serving in my role as councilwoman on this Thursday from 6 to 9 at Imagine Theater in Royal Oak. The Suburbs Alliance, along with other partner organizations, are hosting a community discussion around a film documentary called The New Metropolis, and it's a two-part documentary that looks at the decline of entering suburbs. And the documentary, I believe, is on some cities in Ohio, but very relevant story to our region and our entering suburbs, as well as what neighborhoods are doing to revitalize their parts of their neighborhood to strengthen their community. I will be a panel speaker along with some distinguished guests, Karen Majewski, who is the mayor of the city of Hamtramck, along with State Representative Jim Townsend. This is a free event to anybody. It is from 6 to 9, Imagine Theater. You can go online and RSVP thenewmetropolis.com to join in on the conversation. You can also meet the documentarian director, Andrea Toritze. And then the other one, which is more fun, and I wanted to say thank you for Chief Collins to kind of being the conduit and building relationships with the police department since I've taken my seat on council has been important to me. And last year I did a ride-along and did partake in bar detail as part of my training and understanding more of what police officers do on a day-to-day basis. I am participating in an event with Patrol Officer Tim Andre. This Thursday, I was invited to join him at a Tigers game. He won a raffle ticket for 2 seats to the Tigers game through, what is it, Little Tykes for Bikes? Bikes for Little Tykes, and I went there to play pool, not very well. And Officer Andre invited me to join him as a way to bridge and build relationships between our union, our officers, and city council. So he and I are going together, and I've instituted one rule, and that is Officer Andre has to take the bus with me from Ferndale to the game, which I've been told he has not taken the bus since he was 15 years old. So we'll be giving him a hard time for that as he learns. But I think it's a great opportunity for us to get to know each other better, and for me to ask a lot more questions about the police department and some of the policy changes that have affected the department, as well as have a good time at the Tigers game. So I just wanted to say that's going on.
Very fun. Councilman Galloway.
Just a couple things. We have several thousand people planning to come to East Troy and Paxton this weekend, so we may want to keep Michael Larry and Johnston's up to date on the gas line that runs underneath there and what's going on with that. Since July, we've been receiving a lot of complaints and concerns from citizens wanting us to be more aggressive with DTE and their perhaps failure to maintain the lines and keep service, electrical service to the households in Ferndale. Toward that end, I asked the city manager to have the city attorney prepare a memorandum of what our options may be. And I just wondered, through the chair to the city attorney, if you might be able to detail on a bit of a high level what our options are relative to that.
Well, in light of DTE's scheduled report on the 28th, I think that will provide a lot of meat as to what some of the options are for both the city and its residents. As the city manager indicated, there are the opportunity for residents to file for claims with DTE. Separately, there is the ability for residents to file complaints both with the Michigan Public Service Commission. That opportunity also is available to the city should it elect to do so. But as to whether or not that's the appropriate course, I think that waiting until the report is completed and tendered would afford the city and its residents an opportunity to evaluate what the best strategy is going forward after it considers the data.
All right, so that the folks watching this understand, we're going to get the report in, and then we're going to evaluate all our options as a city, not just as advocate for individual citizens, but we could evaluate options that may be available to us in front of the Public Service Commission or
any other
through
forum,
courts.
or potentially a different forum as well.
And our options outside of the Public Service Commission are somewhat restrained by Michigan law, though. Is that correct?
Correct.
We can't just bring any sort of claim in a different
That's right.
form.
It has, while it's not completely exclusive jurisdiction, it is the majority of jurisdiction with respect to the regulation of not only rates, but the infrastructure, the services of all utilities.
Thank you.
Is that it this evening?
That's it.
All right. Then I guess I'm the last one, and I also want to reiterate what has been said here about everybody stepping up in that storm. I want to thank the residents for their patience as we came around to neighborhoods, and some of you were still getting around to. Once again, I thought it was a great example of how our community, not just the staff, but the community comes together to help each other out. Just to be clear, last Thursday I did sign paperwork to declare a state of emergency in Ferndale. That wasn't because our staff couldn't handle the incident that we had here. It was our attempt to begin the process to recoup some of those costs. There are state disaster dollars that are available. By declaring officially a state of emergency, we can hopefully recoup some of those costs. So that happened last Thursday. And we'll keep you informed on how that progresses. Second, quickly, we did officially open our 2 electric vehicle fueling stations, one here next to the library, in the parking lot next to the library, the second one in the Withington lot behind AJ's Cafe, basically. For this next period of time, it is free to refuel your electric vehicles, so please take advantage of those electric vehicle refueling stations for free. You have to put money in the meters to actually park in front of them, but to refuel your vehicles is free, and I want to thank the DDA for all of their help in staging a public unveiling this week that a number of us attended. So appreciate Christine and all the folks at the DDA. And then with that, our meeting is adjourned.